Imagine a world where love was a crime, desire was policed, and even the most private corners of a king or queen's chamber were ruled by law. In ancient royalty, the bedroom was not a place of freedom, but a stage for politics, alliances, and control. Who you slept with, when you could touch your spouse, even how many times a night, all of it was dictated by rules that, if broken, could cost you your crown or your head. Behind the curtains of golden beds and silk sheets, there were secrets, betrayals, and punishments that still shock us today. This is the shocking story of 10 forbidden bedroom rules in ancient royalty. When we think of a royal bedroom, we often imagine luxury. Golden bed frames, silk sheets, velvet curtains, and attendants ready to serve at a moment's notice. But in the world of ancient royalty, the bedroom was far more than a place of comfort or intimacy. It was the very center of power, politics, and survival. What happened behind those closed doors could decide the future of kingdoms, determine the line of succession, and either cement or shatter alliances that shaped history. Yet, here lies the shocking truth. The royal bedroom was never truly private. Unlike the commoner, who could choose a partner freely, at least in secret, the monarch lived under a set of forbidden rules that governed love, intimacy, and desire. These rules were not written down like the laws of the land, but they were enforced just as harshly. To break them was to invite scandal, exile, or even execution. Rule 1. Royal marriages were not about love. One of the most fundamental forbidden rules was the idea that a king or queen could not marry for love. Marriage was never a matter of the heart, it was a matter of politics. Alliances had to be forged, treaties secured, and dynasties strengthened. A king's spouse was chosen not for beauty or affection, but for what they could offer in terms of power. For example, European monarchies often used marriage to unite kingdoms or end wars. A princess might be sent hundreds of miles away to marry a man she had never met, solely because the union would bring peace. To even think of refusing such an arrangement for personal reasons was unthinkable. The forbidden rule here was simple. The royal bed was a tool of diplomacy, not romance. Rule 2. Consummation was a public affair. Perhaps one of the most bizarre bedroom traditions was the requirement that royal marriages be consummated under the watchful eyes of witnesses. In medieval France, England, and beyond, courtiers, priests, or trusted advisors would sometimes remain just outside the bedchamber or even in the same room to ensure that the marriage was physically sealed. This humiliating custom ensured that no one could question the legitimacy of the union. Imagine the pressure. A young king and queen, strangers to each other, forced to prove their union in the most intimate of ways, while the future of a kingdom depended on their ability to perform. Privacy, in this case, was a forbidden luxury. Rule 3. The king's mistress was a political role. In many courts, especially in France, the king's mistress was not simply a lover but an institution. Having a mistress was expected, and yet it was bound by rules. The chosen woman often wielded immense power, influencing decisions at court, promoting allies, and even shaping policy. But for the queen, the rule was clear. Her fidelity was absolute. A king could stray, but a queen who dared to follow her heart faced ruin. This double standard reflected the brutal reality of royal bedrooms. Desire was tolerated for men but forbidden for women. Rule 4. Forbidden nights during holy days. In Christian Europe, there were strict prohibitions against intimacy during religious festivals, Lent, and Sundays. Couples who disobeyed risked spiritual condemnation and even accusations of sin that could stain their reputations. For royalty, these rules were not only moral, but political. Any hint of disobedience could be used by enemies to question their virtue. The irony, of course, was that kings often ignored these restrictions in private. But queens and consorts were expected to uphold them without question. Breaking this rule could give fuel to rivals and justify whispers of corruption at court. Rule 5. The heir must be proven legitimate. No rule in the royal bedroom was more important than this: the duty to produce an heir. But this was not simply about birth, it was about proof. Queens were often observed closely during pregnancy, and when the child was born, witnesses were present to ensure no trickery had taken place. Rumors of swapped infants or illegitimate children were constant threats. In Tudor England, for instance, Henry VIII's desperate need for a male heir drove him to cast aside wives, challenge the Pope, and alter the very structure of the church. His bedroom rules centered around succession changed the course of history. For royal women, this rule was perhaps the harshest. Their value was measured by their ability to bear children, particularly sons. Failure to do so could mean exile, divorce, or worse. Love and desire were forbidden luxuries. Duty and childbirth were their fate. These first 5 rules paint a grim picture of royal life. Far from being free to love, desire, or even enjoy the privacy of their chambers, kings and queens lived under the constant gaze of advisors, priests, and subjects. The bedroom was less a sanctuary and more a battlefield, where every act was tied to power. But these were only the beginning. As we move deeper into the forbidden rules of ancient royalty, we uncover darker, stranger, and more dangerous customs rules that not only controlled the body, but also the mind, where breaking tradition could bring scandal, disgrace, or death. In the next section, we'll explore the most scandalous bedroom laws of all, rules about who royals could not touch, the punishments for betrayal, and the forbidden desires that toppled dynasties. If the first set of forbidden rules shaped marriage and duty, the next set exposed the darker underbelly of royal intimacy. These were not just customs of convenience or politics, they were rules designed to protect bloodlines, guard secrets, and ensure that power remained firmly within the hands of the monarchy. To break them was not only to break tradition, but to commit treason itself. Rule 6. Adultery was treason for a queen. For kings, dalliances outside of marriage were tolerated, even expected. The royal mistress was an accepted figure in court life. But for queens, the rule was absolute. Adultery was not only forbidden, it was treason. Why? Because a queen's child could inherit the throne. If she bore a child not fathered by the king, the bloodline of the dynasty itself could be compromised. This rule had deadly consequences. Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, was accused of multiple affairs, including one with her own brother. Though historians debate the truth of these charges, the accusations were enough. She was executed in 1536, not only for infidelity, but for treason against the crown. Her death was a brutal reminder that love, for a queen, was forbidden if it strayed beyond her husband. Rule 7. Forbidden lovers were punished with death. In many royal courts, lovers who dared to enter the queen's bed without permission faced execution. Servants, guards, and courtiers sometimes risked everything for a secret romance, but the consequences were merciless. In medieval France, the scandal of Queen Marguerite of Burgundy illustrates this rule vividly. Accused of infidelity, her alleged lovers were captured, tortured, and executed in horrifying ways, while Marguerite herself was imprisoned until her mysterious death. The message was clear. The queen's bedroom was not her own. It belonged to the king, the dynasty, and the kingdom. To break this rule was to invite destruction. Unsolved, forbidden kinship. Marriage within royalty often came dangerously close to incest. To preserve alliances and keep bloodlines pure, royals frequently married cousins, uncles, or nieces. But even within this web of close relations, some unions were still considered forbidden. In Catholic Europe, for example, marriages within certain degrees of kinship were illegal without a papal dispensation. Yet, kings often pushed the boundaries. The Habsburg dynasty, in particular, became infamous for repeated cousin marriages that eventually led to genetic deformities and the tragic Habsburg jaw. In these cases, the forbidden rule was less about morality and more about survival. By ignoring natural boundaries, dynasties condemned their own health. Rule 9. The bed was a political stage. Royal bedrooms were not just private chambers, but theaters of politics. It was common for attendants to sleep nearby or even in the same room, ensuring that every act of intimacy was observed or recorded. In France, Louis XIV turned his rising and bedding rituals into ceremonies attended by dozens of courtiers. Even the birth of royal children was a public spectacle. Queens were often forced to give birth in crowded chambers, surrounded by witnesses to guarantee the legitimacy of the child. Privacy was forbidden because secrecy bred suspicion. The king's bed was not his own, it belonged to the entire kingdom. Rule 10. Forbidden desires could destroy dynasties. The final and most dangerous rule was that forbidden desires, whether for the wrong person, the wrong gender, or the wrong moment, could not be tolerated. Yet history is filled with examples of kings and queens whose private passions changed the course of nations. In ancient China, emperors were expected to follow strict schedules, dictating which concubine they could sleep with each night, ensuring fairness and balance in producing heirs. To deviate from this order was seen as favoritism, a violation of heaven's mandate. In Europe, rumors of homosexuality or unnatural desires were used as weapons against monarchs. King Edward II of England, accused of excessive affection for his male favorites, faced rebellion and ultimately a gruesome death. The forbidden rule here was clear. Desire could never come before duty. To indulge personal passion was to risk scandal, rebellion, and downfall. The punishments for breaking these rules. Breaking the forbidden bedroom rules carried consequences that were often swift and merciless. Lovers of queens were executed, queens themselves were imprisoned or killed, and kings who broke too far from tradition faced rebellion. In Russia, rumors of Catherine the Great's lovers were weaponized by her enemies, tarnishing her reputation despite her immense power. In England, Henry VIII's paranoia over his wife's fidelity reshaped religion itself, leading to the creation of the Church of England. In France, the scandals of queens like Marie Antoinette, though exaggerated, were enough to fuel revolutionary fury. Every forbidden rule carried not just personal consequences, but political ones. Because in ancient royalty, the bedroom was never just about intimacy, it was about empire. As we peel back these layers of secrecy and scandal, we begin to see the royal bedroom for what it truly was, a cage. The silken sheets and golden bed frames disguised a world of fear, control, and constant surveillance. For kings, there was some freedom, but always within limits. For queens, there was almost none. But these rules could not last forever. In the final section, we will explore how some monarchs defied tradition, how forbidden desires sometimes overpowered duty, and how the legacy of these bedroom rules shaped the very course of history. Because in the end, no matter how powerful, even royalty could not escape the pull of human passion. While ancient royal bedrooms were bound by strict rules, history shows us that these laws of intimacy were not always obeyed. Desire, rebellion, and human curiosity often clashed with duty, producing stories of scandal, betrayal, and sometimes revolution. Those who dared to defy these rules often paid a high price, but their actions also shaped the trajectory of kingdoms, dynasties, and culture itself. Defying the rules. Love against power. Some royals attempted to challenge these restrictions, risking their positions for passion. King Edward VIII of England, though centuries later, famously abdicated the throne to Mary Wallace Simpson, an American divorcee, defying centuries of expectation. In ancient times, similar acts were far more dangerous. In France, King Louis XV's private indulgences with mistresses caused political ripples that reached even the Queen. Meanwhile, secret love affairs could inspire conspiracies, rebellions, or even assassinations. The forbidden bedroom rules existed not just to regulate behavior, but to control power itself. To love freely was to threaten the foundation of monarchy. Scandal that shook thrones. Perhaps no story illustrates the consequences of breaking bedroom rules better than that of Catherine de' Medici's court. Known for her political cunning, Catherine meticulously controlled the sexual and reproductive lives of her children and heirs. Yet rumors of forbidden affairs circulated constantly, feeding rivalries and conspiracies. Her ability to navigate this treacherous terrain was both political genius and survival instinct. Other courts were less forgiving. Anne Boleyn, Marie Antoinette, and countless queens faced public humiliation or death for violations real or imagined of these invisible laws. Each scandal became a weapon for political enemies, turning the bedroom into a theater of both pleasure and peril. The power of surveillance. The royal bedroom was also a laboratory for surveillance. Attendants, nurses, chambermaids, and guards were all agents of the crown, ensuring that forbidden acts were prevented or punished. Even the most intimate moments could be exploited. Letters, whispers, and secret reports chronicled behavior that could be used for political advantage. The lesson was clear. In royalty, nothing was personal. Desire and privacy were luxuries, often sacrificed at the altar of dynastic security. The consequences of breaking the rules could be immediate and violent, making the bedroom one of the most dangerous spaces in the palace. When desire collided with duty. History is full of tragic stories where personal desire collided with royal duty. A queen might fall in love with a commoner. A king might prefer a favorite over his lawful wife, and yet the rules were relentless. Those who followed their hearts risked not only their lives but the stability of their kingdom. In the Ottoman Empire, sultans wielded their harem as both pleasure palace and political tool. Concubines' influence depended entirely on the rules they navigated. A single misstep could mean exile or death. These women lived in constant tension between affection, ambition, and survival, a reminder that even in wealth and luxury, the bedroom could be a battlefield. Lessons from the forbidden bedroom. Looking back, these rules may seem archaic or cruel, but they reveal a lot about the nature of power and human behavior. The royal bedroom was never just about sex. It was about hierarchy, politics, and survival. Intimacy was weaponized, love was regulated, and desire was subordinated to duty. These stories also reveal the gendered double standards. Kings could indulge, queens could not. The consequences of forbidden acts were distributed unevenly, yet the pressure to conform applied to everyone in the royal circle. The bedroom, more than any other space, was where power, control, and fear intersected. The legacy of forbidden bedroom rules. The legacy of these rules can still be traced today. Modern monarchy may seem ceremonial and distant, but the echoes of these forbidden practices linger in how royals are scrutinized in private life. The fascination with royal scandals continues to captivate the public imagination, because the stakes in those bedrooms were always extraordinary. Love, betrayal, power, and survival intertwined in ways ordinary people could hardly imagine. Even in literature and cinema, these forbidden bedroom rules have inspired countless stories of intrigue and tragedy, from Shakespearean drama to modern historical fiction. The lessons of these rules remind us that the most private spaces can hold the most public consequences, and that the boundaries of desire and duty are often determined by forces far beyond individual control. Reflection. Power, desire, and human nature. What can we learn from the royal bedrooms of the past? Perhaps it is that power always comes with restrictions, and that even the most opulent lives are not free from rules. Desire, when constrained by law, custom, or fear, can become both a source of strength and a cause of downfall. And perhaps most importantly, the stories of these bedrooms remind us that history is not just shaped by wars and treaties, but by the hidden choices made behind closed doors. From queens executed for love to kings manipulated by desire, the forbidden bedroom rules shaped not only individual fates, but entire dynasties. They are a stark reminder that in the world of royalty, intimacy was never just personal. It was political, perilous, and profoundly consequential. If these stories of power, betrayal, and forbidden desire fascinated you, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the hidden secrets of history's most powerful figures. Comment below which royal scandal shocked you the most. Was it Anne Boleyn's downfall, Catherine de' Medici's manipulations, or the dangerous politics of the Ottoman harem? History is full of secrets waiting to be uncovered, and the royal bedroom is just the beginning. Join us as we continue to explore the mysterious, the forbidden, and the extraordinary stories of those who shape the world from behind closed doors.